Hi, everyone. I'm Rosemarie Miller, and I have Samuel Joeckel, an English professor who's currently under review at Florida's Palm Beach Atlantic University, here with me to talk a little bit about why he's under review. Samuel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes. Samuel, could you just set the stage for us? What happened?
So on February 15th, I had concluded a class and I was walking out of the classroom and found the provost of the university and my dean standing outside my classroom. They asked if they could speak with me privately, so we walked back into the classroom. The dean had an envelope in his hand. He handed me the envelope and told me that inside is a document to notify me that the issuance of my contract renewal was being delayed pending a review of the material I use in my racial justice class or my racial justice unit in one of my classes.
Okay. And did you expect this? Were you blindsided? How did you feel?
No, I was completely blindsided. I mean, I've been teaching a racial justice unit for 12 years at my university, and not once in those 12 years has any PBA administrator voiced any concern about the racial justice unit. So this was the very first time that anyone has voiced a concern, and it was also the time when my contract when I was told my contract might not be renewed.
Wow. So, Samuel, what exactly did your racial justice unit consist of?
Well, this unit is in a writing course, so it was one of four units in the class, and it was a presentation of, well, it asked students to critically reflect on important moments in history and important quantitative and qualitative data that have shaped and framed discussions on race and racism over the last 50 years. So it was a unit that gave them an opportunity to write about something that I felt was important and exciting. And I felt that way. I felt that way for 12 years because that's how long I've been doing this racial justice unit.
And to your knowledge, have other professors at the university been teaching anything along those lines?
Yes, there are a couple, but not a whole lot.
Okay.
Not a whole lot.
And I saw somewhere in the reporting that parents complained about it, and that's kind of how the situation happened. Is that true?
That is correct. That's how this whole thing got started. It was a parent who complained directly to the president. So that completely is against the protocol of how this is supposed to work. The student was supposed to talk to me. And I'm sure if the student had done that, we could have worked this out, but that's not what happened. The student didn't come to me, and the student, it wasn't even the student who turned to the president, it was a parent who went to the president.
And
So
so,
there's a chain of command here that was supposed to be, that's the protocol, right? The student comes to me, and then if that doesn't resolve it, then the student goes to the chair, et cetera, et cetera. And none of that protocol was followed here.
and did you expect anything like this to happen when you were teaching this? I understand you'd been teaching it for 12 years, but in all these 12 years that what is it, the Stop Woke Act, that wasn't
Yeah.
a thing then, but now it
So
is. Did you
yeah, so I mean, it's this. I know 12 years ago, I knew this was provocative and challenging, and that's why I teach it. I mean, that's what college education is about, is to be challenged. But I have to say that it has become more stressful to teach this unit, first since the Trump presidency, because we do talk about that in the class. I think it's impossible to have an honest conversation about race and racism without talking a little bit about the Trump administration. And we also and since the anti woke ideology has gone wild here in Florida, that has increased my stress level as well.
so you
So it's gotten more stressful over the past what 5 6 years, I'd say.
right, I imagine. Ah, Samuel, I have to admit, Florida is the same state that is threatening to hand out felonies if you have certain books on your shelf. So, why did you really go forward with teaching this? Because you had to know somewhere. that this could be a problem. This could come back on me. You had to know this. Why did you do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess that's just how I'm wired. You know, I've also been teaching a gender equality unit for 12 years. So these are issues that are just important to me. And I teach at a Christian university, and I think actually the identity of my university should encourage me to teach these units, because I think gender equality and racial justice are issues that the Christian should not only analyze but live out, and practice what they preach.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just feel like they're important to me personally, but also the racial justice unit is interesting. It's interesting history, and it's important history, and it's just important now as it was 50 years ago and as it was 150 years ago. So it's definitely an important topic. So why not? Why not incorporate it into the classroom?
See, I saw a quote from you that said, "What happened to me is definitely influenced by a toxic political culture, and it's my opinion that the university is playing a role." Samuel, were you too playing a role? I mean, this story has gained national headlines. Was that your intent?
No, because my racial unit has been around longer than anti-woke ideology in the state. I'm doing the same thing I was doing 12 years ago. So I don't think I'm playing a role at all. I'm not reacting to anything. I'm proacting, and I've been proactive with this racial justice unit, as I say, for 12 years.
Hmm. But we have to still remember the state of Florida right now. It's not the same as 12 years ago. So why did you decide to continue down that path instead of conforming with the times? I understand that you think it's important, but do you prioritize your career or your own beliefs?
Uh, my own beliefs.
Hmm.
I am willing to lose my job over this. It's important to me. So I'm not going to compromise my values on this, especially since I've been doing it for so long. One book I use in my racial justice unit ever since it was released is Jamar Tisby's The Color of Compromise. And in that book, he makes a distinction that I emphasize in my class, especially since I teach at a Christian university. And that is a distinction between being a complacent Christian and being a courageous Christian. And so that's what's going on here as I see it. I think the university is succumbing to complacent Christianity.
And
And so I'm not going to back down on what I've been doing. It's important to me.
what do you think the verdict will be regarding your employment?
I don't know. I really couldn't say at this point.
And if they let you
Um,
stay on, would you stay?
I'm sorry.
If they let you stay on, would you stay?
I would like to stay at this university, even despite all of this, because I love the students at my university. I've made such great connections. I keep in touch with a lot of them. So and they're encouraging me so much. I've received overwhelming encouragement from current students and students from 20 years ago. So I do want to stay here, fight it out, and my goal is to make the university accountable for this. One of the university's core values is accountability. And I think it's time for the university to apply that core value to itself. If you look at my post on Instagram and you look at the comments, so many former and current PBA people say something like, "This is disappointing, but not surprising," over and over again. So I want the university to have a real discussion centered on the question, why is this not surprising when something like this happens at our university. The
Mhm.
university needs to tackle that.
Do you think it's more so a university issue or a Florida issue?
I think it's both, but I'm a professor at this particular university, so at this university it's hitting me personally. But I do think that the university has conformed to that has conformed to that toxic political culture in Florida. So that I think the anti-woke ideology has infiltrated this university.
Mhm. So, if you are to stay on, and you said you'd like to, what happens with this racial justice unit? Are you going to keep teaching it? What are you going to do?
Yeah, that would be one of my conditions for staying here. If they
Mhm.
tell me that you can't teach a racial justice unit, then we have a problem. I want to continue to teach my racial justice unit.
And wasn't Governor Ron DeSantis at the university the day they told you you were under review?
Yeah, I mean, not only was he on campus on that day, but when the dean left, he told me that he had to go to prepare for DeSantis's arrival on campus. So yeah, that I actually laughed when he said that. I mean, it's come on. I, I asked him right before he said that. I asked him, why is this happening now? I've been teaching this unit for 12 years. Why didn't this happen 5 years ago? Why didn't this happen 12 years ago? And he didn't really answer the question. And then told me that he had to go prepare for DeSantis and meet DeSantis. And that's when I laughed. And I said, do you see what's happening here? Do you see this connection? And apparently he didn't.
So, what do you hope our audience or audiences in general gained from this story?
Uh, I haven't really thought about that. I mean, for me, I guess when I teach the unit, I just I don't want to make it about politics. I want to make it about um, just doing what's right, especially from this university's perspective as a Christian university. Uh, I think when it's contextualized within contemporary political discourse, and the way that political discourse today likes to frame this, then it's just impossible to get a conversation started. So I guess what I would want in my classroom is what I would want everywhere is just why can't we just have an honest conversation without preemptive, rhetorical moves or political moves that just shut it all down? In my class, my refrain, for 20 years has been all opinions are welcome in my classroom. So when it works well, my racial justice unit takes place in a context where everyone feels safe to share. And when that happens, it's magical. So, that has happened. It doesn't always happen, but when it happens, there's something magical about that. And I think, when those conditions are present, then the conversation about racial justice in the country is a really productive one. I just want productive conversations and honest conversations about racial justice in this country.
Samuel, what's next for you? If you don't get this position, if you don't keep this position, rather, what's next?
So no, I mean, I've actually had a couple people say, "Hey, we'd like to hire you. Here's the application. Apply here." But I really don't know. I mean, when you've been teaching at a university for 20 years, it's hard to think about doing something different. So it's kind of it's unknown. I don't know what would be next.
Thank you so much, Samuel.
Thanks for this opportunity.